Man to recruit. He's 6'3", he was 285 pounds on his visit. Coach Patterson, back from his CFL days, and his father were teammates, and his dad is in the Hall of Fame in the CFL for his sacks. And you can tell this young man's been very well coached and really excited to get Christian here. But 18 from Texas, and that's a good thing.
Coach, how many scars do you saw?
None.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe.
Coach, on Covington, he was one of the last guys to. How big was it? I mean, he was rated as the top defensive lineman in Canada. You got the connection, but just with his pedigree, how big is that to get somebody of that caliber? And he's only 17.
He just turned 17 years old. His foot and his age are the same. You know, he's another young man who's got a lot of growing left to do. You walk into his home, and you know it's just the entire family's very athletic. His one of his sisters is like the third-ranked hammer thrower in Canada, and I think she's a future Olympian. So he comes from a great gene pool, and I mean, just it was a wonderful home visit with his mom and his sisters. But we really think he's going to be special.
Any concern as you get further along with mining Canada, with what happened with Arnaud, in terms of how you manage the homesickness in that situation?
Well, you know, I think really what got us with Arnaud was English was a second language. So we're just not going to go back to Quebec.
Coach, looked like you got a lot faster and more athletic.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been working hard on my speed.
At the receiver position?
Yeah, well, tight end. But no, we think we did that. I think with the receivers and the defense, even the linebacker, when you see Nick Elder run and Austin Williamson, those are guys that can play from sideline to sideline. And Jalen and Julius, you know, those wideouts can run. They really can. So I really do believe, you know, we've helped ourselves where a lot of these young men can come in next year and help us out if need be.
You mentioned scholarship numbers. Well, someone asked you a second ago. Have you given any determination at this stage who you make gray shirt? Because obviously you have more signed than scholarships available.
Well, you know, some things like Edwin Hooper is a young man who's had knee surgery, and MK, you just got to see. Austin Williamson is a young man who's going to go on his mission for 2 years and join us in 2013. But you have to look at that and just see who's ready to come. You know, Edwin, if his knee's ready, maybe somebody that wouldn't be a gray shirt.
How was the process with you in terms of communicating with that to those kids during the whole recruitment? Well,
you know what? It's all about communication and being honest up front. It's where we are. You know, in scholarships, Rice, we don't take early graduates. So to manage your scholarship numbers, you have to try to do it on the back end. And it's a way that people, you know, if you look, you try primarily to do it with young men that you think that are late maturing physically and that have a lot of growth in them, almost like holding back kids in, you know, the first grade. Nothing bad can come of it, and as long as you're honest with, you know, if you look to, mostly you try to do it in offensive line with younger guys that are 17 that may have started school early. And because of what Rice represents, it's really easy that a young man is willing to do it.
Because of the success you've had with Vance and Klein in particular with this process, you feel like you have a pretty sharp eye on who fits that bill in terms of gray shirt candidates?
You really, like I said, you primarily, Vance was because of an injury. You know, Klein needed to grow. And so, yeah, I think, you know, and you know MK right at the start, who, you know, if you have an injury, you know, everybody wants to make the most out of their 5 years. So you kind of know, you know, who would be interested and who wouldn't be.
Because this is your 5th year here, did you feel a little bit more compelled to recruit for need, specifically defensive line you mentioned right out of the box, in terms of what you got to get guys on the field right now to be successful in 2011?
Well, yeah, we have to do that. You also, if you look into the future of what our seniors are going to be next year, you know, you have 5 scholarships in the offensive line that are going to be seniors. You have 5 scholarships in the defensive line that are going to be seniors, and we felt like we needed to start replacing some of those positions now where we just wouldn't be so young when that time comes.
Coach, locally with the Julius White, you mentioned one way or another which way he could go, but is he more, if he's on the defensive side, is he more of a corner or is he more of a safety, or?
He could be either one. I think he runs well enough. You know, you watch him operate at quarterback out of that option though and make people miss, and you have those dreams and maybe he's a great receiver. You have, you know, we're blessed right now with a lot of good running backs, but he could be a running back for us. What he is, he's an important piece to the puzzle.
Do you have an idea of where you think you need him most at this stage?
Yeah, but every time, you know, when we first started recruiting him, it was to be a defensive back. But you just, you know, he's a human highlight tape with a ball in his hand. And, you know, one of the things we have done that I don't even know, I haven't talked to Chuck once being on the road, we are moving Shane Turner to corner this spring to help us get some numbers over there because we're so deep at running back. And Shane was excited about that.
Is Shane still going to return kicks for you?
Absolutely.
Like the speed.
Coach, you comment on Miles Lee. Do you project him as maybe putting a little bit more weight on that frame of his?
He is. I tell you what, Miles is, he's 6'4", right now he's 230. 15 of these 19 came to camp. And Miles was one of them that came to camp, and his athleticism and hip flexibility was incredible then. He was 5th in the state powerlifting. You know, he's one of those guys, he's going to get bigger every day. He's, you know, he's explosive for his size. He could run so well at camp and change direction. He's one of those guys that just was a no-brainer when you saw him operate, and then you get his, you know, his transcript, and he's one that's a great fit here. But yeah, I think he's really, you know, you'll look up one day and he's 270, still playing defensive end.
Because you lost your two starting defensive ends, do you feel like you need all three of these defensive ends to be ready to play in the fall, or maybe just one?
Well, that's one of the things too. You know, Cody Baiiff had the ACL surgery at the end of last season. So, you know, that happened so late, and he has a redshirt year available. Cody's a young man, we may could redshirt if one of these, to really make sure he's healthy and ready to go, if one of these young men could come in and play as a freshman, that would sure give us some options there with Cody.
Coach, on the Covington kid, how much does age factor in? Just because he seems like he's going to grow into his body some more, and I mean, is it depending on what you have up there in the interior? Do you?
Well, you know, I mean this. Like, you look when you're a football coach, one of the first things you look at is feet and do they shave. And if they don't shave yet, you know, there's still a lot of growth in that body. And his feet truly do match his age. And you know, he's one of those young, I mean this, he's going to be 310, 320 interior. He's just now hitting his growth spurt. When you talk to him a year ago, you know, he's put on 40 pounds in a year, and he's just a big kid. But that's, you know, that's the one thing you look at as, you know, where are they? Are they fully matured, or, you know, does it take them a month to grow a beard? Can they grow a beard? You know, can they do it overnight? We had the young man from here many years ago, Jeff Novak, that was from Houston and came to Southwest Texas as a quarterback and was a draft pick of the San Diego Chargers at offensive tackle. You know, you never know how much you're going to grow, but you know they are going to grow. And you know what? Too at Rice, we have to grow our own. You know, that's a philosophy we have to have. We have to try to look into the future and really project where we think they're going to be. And so you know, you look at your feet, you look at the shoulders, you look at the size of their hand, and you do look at their whiskers.
Coach, talk about Rossmanship when he brings.
I tell you what, Ross really he plays in a bad mood, and he comes off the field when you're watching video on Ross, he jumps off the video at you. He naturally gets upfield hips and explodes with his hands, and you know, it's important to him to get to the football. And he is, I mean, he is truly 270 right now at this point. He's one that physically could come in and play next year, just where he is in his strength.
I know in talking, he's got leadership skills with the line coaches and stuff like that. I mean, is that something that you've been able to sit down with him and he's kind of a natural leader?
Yeah, he really is. You know, that's one of the things you look at during the recruiting process, who's captains, who's the leader. You know, and it's good when you can get a young man that you know's the captains of the team and has showed leadership, you know, through his entire career. You know, that's what's great about when you get to the school is talking to, you know, counselors and principals and teachers and trainers, and because they tell you the truth about these kids. And that's another reason I think all of them though have a lot of leadership in them.
Was there any area you didn't get in on that you wanted to get in on, or?
No, you know, because we're maxed out at scholarship right now in running back, and you know, I think we filled everything we needed to fill. You know, the great news was nobody changed their mind last night, and you know, when it goes dead as a football coach, you're nervous because you know other schools are calling them, and it's great when each one of these young men held to their word and they were Rice Owls. And at, you know, 7:01 you walk in and there's Julius White's fax, and you know, at 7:02 you get the next fax, and you know, and it's just every one of those NLIs that hit, you know, you just kind of can finally go, and you know, like I said, now we're starting again.